Welcome, everybody. My name is Chris Devane. I am the director of The Artist Journey. Hopefully you guys have heard of that before. We brought you a very special guest this evening. I'm sure you guys all know who he is. Probably one of the finest actors to ever grace the silver screen. I'm sure you guys know that as well, too. So I would like to introduce somebody that I've known for almost 20 years now. One of the kindest men on the face of the planet. Ladies and gentlemen, Sir Ben Kingsley. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. We have a lot of questions that we want to get through.
We have matching shoes.
We almost do.
Almost.
Yeah. I only have one question for Sir Ben. He's not here for me, he's here for you. He is a wealth of knowledge as well. So Sir Ben, my only question would be about your knighthood, about the process that you go through. One day you're just an average citizen, and the next
I still am.
Tell us a little bit about what that process was like for you.
Well, it did come as a total surprise. I never had any aspiration, social aspirations or nobility aspirations. My primary aspiration, in fact, I think my primary role in my tribe is a storyteller. My tribal function is to tell stories. Therefore, I don't necessarily address myself to the tribe as a storyteller, hoping for anything other than being heard. And what is surprising about receiving a knighthood, I received a letter in the post, and the letter reads quite beautifully, "To ennoble you with the title of knighthood," which is a beautiful phrase. The English language is a beautiful language, and it's profoundly expressive, and I think underused. I think part of my work as an actor, hopefully, is to reestablish the language that is like sprung steel. It's flexible, but it's immensely strong. And through my work in Shakespeare, and also through any script that I read, is the audience are they going to hear this? And are they going to be stimulated by the words and the order in which those words come? To get back to my knighthood. So the English are not as enthusiastic as you. What you demonstrated when I walked on is for a Brit, it's still very surprising, very delightful, and overwhelming. This is a nation of enthusiasm. And I remember the Royal Shakespeare Company mounted a phenomenal event, Nicholas Nickleby. It lasted 8 hours. And the critics were quite lukewarm. And it was a magnificent event. Yeah. Bernard Levin, one of our greatest critics, said, "Why are the English incapable of enthusing?" After that article, the theaters were sold out night after night after night. And it was a magnificent run, and it was a triumph. But the critics, the British critics then, and I can talk freely now because most of them are dead. Yeah, it was in 1980 I'm talking about now. I have another story about Nicholas Nickleby as well, which is extraordinary. But dear Bernard said, "Why can't you enthuse? This is a magnificent event. It is Charles Dickens. It is the Royal Shakespeare Company. It is David Edgar. It is Trevor Nunn. It is extraordinary." So the British can't enthuse. When I walk into, if I don't do it often, but if I walk into a restaurant in the UK, not in America, because it's really a joy, It's a joy comparable to walking onto your stage. People sitting at another table. Oh, there's Ben Kingsley. Who? Ben Kingsley. I think I'll have the steak. So when Her Majesty says, you have been seen, and you have been heard, and you are a national treasure, it is somewhat equivalent to walking onto this stage.
Almost as being claimed.
Claimed and acclaimed.
Yeah. Wow.
So my tribe has said, yes. It's great. It's lovely.
I apologize, I do have one more quick question. Sorry.
Make it a slow question.
Okay. Many of the students that are here not only learn theater, but they also learn film and television. Do you think that it's imperative for any actor to get some type of a start on stage rather than just jumping right on television?
I think our function as actors is tribal. I think it goes back millennia to when the storyteller was the healer, was the shaman, was the tribe elder, was the storyteller, was the person who said, please don't worry, the sun will rise tomorrow morning. And the saber-toothed tiger won't get you as long as we have this bonfire burning. And let me tell you a story, and the whole tribe is feeling safe. So I would encourage you to enjoy as much as you can that tribal function of being amongst people and telling a story. It will translate into the crew and into your film audience eventually, but it has, you have to have something to translate in the first place. You can't invent that extraordinary, I feel it now, absolutely in my body. My body chemistry changes as soon as I go from there to here. It changes because I have an urgent function to communicate something. As a theater actor, I was very blessed. I became an actor, and within months of me becoming an actor, I was with the Royal Shakespeare Company. I stayed with that company as a stage actor until Richard Attenborough, who directed Gandhi, telephoned the stage door during Nicholas Nickleby and asked me to meet him in the interval of Nicholas Nickleby.
Wow.
I got a phone call at the stage door. And the difference for me, personally, between my work as a theater actor and my work as a film actor, let me say that as a theater actor, if I were a painter, I was a landscape artist. I bring everything onto the canvas, onto the stage. I bring the characters, I bring the mountain, I bring the clouds, I bring the lake, I bring the army, I bring everything. As Shakespeare said, let your imagination. We bring everything onto the stage. So that I'm a landscape painter. Now I'm a film actor. I'm a portrait artist. And I love that tiny raise of the eyebrow and that tilt of the head that means danger, and that softness in the mouth that means affection. I love now, well, the word is to portray, isn't it?
Yeah.
I portray roles. So, and I enjoy that distance too, as if I do have a brush, and as if the blank canvas is the screen that you just watched, and I have to fill that canvas with my portrait. But the paints are the same. That extraordinary gesture of the palette and the canvas is the same, but the end result is different. It's not the landscape, it's the individual on the landscape now.
Makes sense. Wow. Okay, so let's go ahead and open this up to the student questions.
Okay. Our first question.
Namaste, Sir Ben. I'm Muskan Deo. I'm from Mumbai, India, and I grew up in India. I have a question for you. I saw the film Gandhi as a child with my father, and that's when I learned about the history of my country. I wanted to ask, what was the most challenging aspect for you in embodying such an iconic figure?
Well, that's a lovely question. Fortunately, as I told you earlier, and thank you for your kind words regarding my portrayal, my portrait. Fortunately, before playing the Mahatma, I had played Hamlet, for example, for the Royal Shakespeare Company, amongst many other extraordinarily wonderful leading roles, and participated in plays that dealt with a unique destiny on a very disturbed landscape, so that I felt that I had some grasp, poetically and historically, and perhaps even intellectually and emotionally, about the isolated figure on a landscape faced with the most extraordinarily difficult decisions. It is very similar to the soliloquy, To Be or Not to Be. Also, Hamlet says, "O cursed spite, that ever I was born to set it right," when he's talking about something rotten in the state of Denmark. And Gandhiji realized that there was something very wrong about the, however well-intended, the eventual exploitation of colonialism. Of course, it has left great legacies, as I'm sure you will agree, but it also was exploitative, and the sovereignty of the nation was not functioning, was not present. So that when Gandhi came as a young lawyer, and when he was thrown off the train, and when that anger, indignation was ignited in him, I think it was very similar to many of the great Shakespearean heroes that I had been so privileged to be close to and even portray, where that question, somewhere in the play, the question is asked, why me? Why me? Why has God chosen me to save a subcontinent, to change the history of an ancient civilization and regroup it and recoin it as a new nation, the father of India? He's the father of India, Bapu. So that when I met Attenborough, he had already, his son, Michael Attenborough, had seen my Hamlet. And he said to his father, you know, his dad was questing 20 years to make the film. He first started talking to Jawaharlal Nehru, and then to Indira Gandhi, his daughter, who was then Minister, I believe, of Broadcasting at the time. Anyway, and Motilal Kothari, and all these extraordinary people in India who helped him. And so obviously the greatest challenge for the actor is to be crushed by the responsibility. I did, having met dear Richard Attenborough, whom I loved, and spoke with him about the role. I then screen tested with a thumping heart. I waited in my dressing room after the screen test that Richard had seen, and he sat as close to me as Chris is. He slumped in his chair as one exhausted at the end of a long journey, and muttered, "Ben, I want you to do it." It was as if he had come to the end of a massive journey, and it was beginning another one. Now he had to make the film, of course. I then watched, in one sitting, he had assembled, bless him, 6 hours of newsreel footage. Now Gandhi is like a, gosh, Gandhi could be 2,000 years ago. There's something timeless about him. Look at his dress. Look at him. He could have been, it was like watching newsreel footage of Moses. It is extraordinary to watch this man on film. And then at the end of the 6 hours watching him, and I never watched the footage again, I left the screening room saying to myself, I can't do it. Absolutely impossible. I cannot do it. I then found myself in New Delhi, learning my script, beautiful script by Jack Brierley. The writing overcame so many challenges because it is so intelligently written. Never can the actor look at a script like that and think, what is he supposed to be doing in this scene? It was manifestly obvious exactly where Gandhi was at every stage of his life, what the challenges were, what the level of exhaustion was, what the level of vitality was. There I was in the Ashoka Hotel in New Delhi, learning my lines, and then feeling myself at the bottom of an unclimbable, insurmountable mountain. To answer your question, I never looked down and I never looked up. I kept my face to the mountain face. And inch by inch, step by step, day by day, guided by my dear colleague Richard, we got to the top of the mountain. And I hope that answers your question.
Our next question will be from a faculty member, Stephen Rockwell.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Sir Ben. My name is Stephen Rockwell. I'm an adjunct professor of acting here at AMDA and a fellow thespian. And I have a question that matched up with a student's question, so I think I was appointed to speak for the two of us. Lauren Thompson wanted to know what's the best piece of advice you've been given in your career. And as a teacher, I'd like to add to that any pieces of advice from any teachers along the way that were particularly helpful to you. And I'd just like to also say thank you so much for making time and space in your life for an event like this.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure you understand how important it is for us that you would make time and space in your life for this event. So thank you so much.
It's very important for me to be here. It's connecting as a storyteller to my tribe, and I'm sitting here telling stories. And it's a joy to me. I didn't go to drama school. I was at a loss when I left school. I did not go to university. I read some very strange things at school. I studied some very odd subjects at school, odd given who I am now. Physics, chemistry, and biology. But those three sciences have given me a forensic approach to acting. It is a craft. There's, with great respect to your calling and to faculty members who I'm sure are not in this building, there is a great deal of nonsense talked about acting. It is a craft. It's a treasured part of our lives as storytellers and listeners. And it can be, for my part, personally, it can be approached scientifically, cause and effect. Young lady asked me about Gandhi. I understood the cause, and the effect was magnificent. The cause was, don't throw him off a train. You throw him off a train, you're in big trouble. And I don't think that Gandhi, as a young lawyer, would ever say that to anybody. But I realize as an actor, having studied physics, the laws of cause and effect, chemistry and biology, the primal scientific laws of cause and effect, just like light and shade. I knew that Jack and Dick Attenborough put that wonderful sequence in the film to say, watch out, you just made a big mistake throwing this kafir by a racist South African, Afrikaners, throwing this kafir off the train. It was at that moment, I'm sure, that Gandhi felt, I have to do something. So if as actors you can find in your character that trigger that gives that character his or her sense of urgency throughout the play, the film, the episode, then you've found gold. I have to say, conversely, that if in your earnest search and pitting all your intelligence and imagination against the challenges, if you cannot find that trigger, it may be absent in the script. And if it is absent in the script, it is a script that you should not do. You shouldn't touch it. But if you can find that, there it is. If you can find that moment where the effect is based upon that which caused it, it will give you enormous energy. And you won't find yourself in a script that you sort of don't quite understand, but you'll have a go. You find yourself as an actor leaping over black holes, hoping that nobody notices, where you really don't know what you're doing until you get to the next bit. No. You will find a golden thread through the character's journey. I can find many triggers. I can probably find every single trigger in every role I've played that I've been happy with. So find the trigger. Another thing I've heard, which really dismayed me, was from a highly acclaimed acting coach. And I believe the phrase was, you have to win the scene. It's disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful. It's a disservice to your colleague, it's a disservice to the craft, and it's a disservice to your audience. You play the scene together. It's wonderfully collaborative. That is one of the last remaining joys of being an actor, is that it is so dependent upon your team, upon others. And anything that is dependent on others will bond you to others, and therefore the process will be life-enhancing. But to rehearse and act a scene where at the back of your mind your mandate is, I've got to win this, I've got to win this, it won't work, because the sparks won't fly. Aggression might, competition might, but that doesn't leave the audience with anything other than perhaps watching a scuffle in which nobody wins. Whereas if between you, the cast can impart, I work with Peter Brook. Can you hear him? I can hear him in my voice as I speak. I work with Peter Brook on the great, unforgettable, indelible Midsummer Night's Dream. I was his Demetrius. And for him, Peter is now in my DNA. He's one of the voices, along with Attenborough and others, God bless them, voices in my head and in my heart. And if as developing actors you can find that voice that lodges in your head and heart, that voice will stay with you forever. And it was glorious to work with Peter. And Peter led his troupe. It was like a dance. There was nothing aggressive or winning the scene or any of that nonsense. It is such a disservice to the craft to say you have to win the scene. Recently, a director said to me on a film set recently, the director turned to my fellow actor and said to my fellow actor, you see, this is where you win the scene. with me just 2 feet away from this ludicrous conversation where he was basically saying to my colleague, this is where you beat Ben. This is where you smash Ben. That wasn't very nice. So resist that kind of language. Have that little shake in your head that you just made. Resist that language. It is not your language. It's the language of the amateur. It is not your language. You are there to collaborate and share a wonderful story with each other and with your audience. It's not a fight, it's a dance.
Our next question is from Alice.
Hi, my name's Alice Helliwell, and I'm from Blackpool, England. My question for you is, after reading a script, how do you begin to work on the role? And is it different for each part that you get cast as, or is there a consistent approach? Thank you.
I used to live in Manchester. We used to go to Blackpool. The illumination, the lights, beautiful. And Blackpool Tower, which is Lancashire's version of the Eiffel Tower. Beautiful. I was on and off about 12 years, Alice, with the Royal Shakespeare Company. I worked with Peter Brook, Trevor Nunn, John Barton, David Jones, Bos Goodbody, Cicely Berry, geniuses. And I worry that the thread might snap, and if the thread does snap, I worry that it may never be repaired. That is the thread between the true purpose of drama in our lives and its interpretation and sharing it. I honestly don't know whether I have a methodology that I apply to every role, apart from that which I discussed with your friends earlier, to find the cause and effect. If it's well written, if it's Shakespeare's plays are maps of human behavior. Shakespeare wrote the map of the human being. His characters are psychologically flawless. They will stand any amount of examination by the actor and the character won't break because it is utterly consistent. The cause and effect in Lear, in Hamlet, in Brutus, in all of them is so perfectly observed and crafted. So I'm blessed with the opportunity of being able to choose my scripts, and if I feel a sense of urgency that this must be shared with my tribe, not because of now, not because of any fashion, not because of any shift, but because it contains something mythological and archetypal, something eternal. Occasionally, actually, I think I can answer your question quite specifically now. Occasionally, I have an opportunity to write a few words down on a piece of paper almost, fold that piece of paper in my pocket and put it away. Now, Chris didn't include in the reel, and it may have been for all kinds of reasons. I think his reel was beautiful. But there was let me give you an example that's not on the show reel. I played Otto Frank, Anne Frank's father, who lived, bless him, to 92. And our Anne Frank was played by Hannah Taylor-Gordon, and she was an exquisite Anne. And I found the script, and I find her journey incomprehensible in its tragedy and brutality, and her intelligence quite sublime. But but that's all a little bit theoretical, isn't it? So where is my? And I have children, and I must never, never, never use my own children and grandchildren as playthings in my imagination for some tragedy. No, they never, never enter my mind. So the sequence in the House of Sand and Fog, when I said I must to my son, that was Colonel Barani's son. My son never, never entered my consciousness. Of course I'm a dad, but Barani was a dad, and it's Barani's son. And therefore, if I'd strayed into that methodology, I would have ruined my portrayal of grief. because it would be unbearable and untranslatable, and it would be solipsistic, it would be selfish. But if I empathize with Bharani, and empathy is a tremendous tool in the actor's hands. Think of it, the art of acting, of transforming yourself into someone else, is one of the most extraordinary acts of empathy one can ever witness. Empathy isn't theoretical, and it's not intellectual, it's visceral. So my note to myself when I was playing Otto Frank, I imagined Anne at school, in the playground, maybe 4 o'clock. You know when parents go to meet their children from school. And Anne's playing with her friends, and she looks over to the school gates, and she sees Otto. And she says to her friend, "See that man over there? That's my dad." So that, for me, galvanized the relationship. He was everything to her. And that is, you have to find that empathetic key. And I'm not talking about, I hear some actors say, "Oh, I played this role because I relate to it." Well, it's not all about you. It's about the character. Maybe you can empathize, maybe you can understand, but to relate to it, it doesn't really get you anywhere. You relate to this. No, it doesn't relate to you. That's win the scene stuff. It's all the wrong way round. It's nonsense. But to find that key is a wonderful thing. For Gandhi, don't throw me off a train. There are little keys if you can find them, but they do alter. They do alter. For Isaac Stern, for example, I think for him it was, do I have to witness this? Do I really have to witness this? Why me? Why me? With that wonderful Judaic shrug. Why me? And if you can find, if the material is worthy of you and your commitment and your intelligence, and that's a lot to ask. Actors give everything. Sometimes one should think, not am I worthy of this script? Is this script worthy of me? Is it really worth me pouring the cells of my body into this? If it's not, please don't do it. But if it is, you will find that key, and you'll find that there's precious few words and put them in the back of your mind, on your back burner. But the commitment to the journey, the joy of language, and to be expressed. Now, instead of I relate to it, no, but what is beautiful is one could say, I chose this role because I could express something through it. We are by nature expressive. When I played Don Logan in Sexy Beast, I was 1 week into filming, Alice. It wasn't before. When I read the script, I thought, oh, there you are. It was beautiful to read him. That script reads like a Jacobean tragedy. And it's rhythmic, it's beautiful. But I realized about 1 week into playing, and I don't know whether I shared this with the director or not. I think he knew I knew. I think we're both on the same page. Don was an abused child. And if an abused child is unhealed, he will go on to abuse others. It's a law of cause and effect. So there are some triggers that come before you walk onto the film set, some triggers that are set off once you embrace your character and get to know your character, but you have to be curious in the first place. Now I choose my characters either because I understand them and recognize them, or I'm very curious to get to know them, one of the two.
Next up, we have another faculty member, Leon Martel.
Thank you. You've already addressed this question to some degree, but I'm wondering what influence acting on stage, particularly in performing Shakespeare, had in your then shifting to performing in film and television, making that jump from the reality of the stage to the reality of the film and television set. Thank you.
Well, again, I go back to Richard Attenborough, one of the voices in my head and in my heart, and he said that theatre is the integrity of the event, and acting is the integrity of the moment. Filming is the integrity of the moment. So that is something you appreciate by experience alone. I think the greatest gift I think theatre gave me was probably stamina, and to never give up on a character and to be utterly forensic and search. We don't have a long rehearsal period for film, as you know. We had a very long rehearsal period for Hamlet and for Midsummer Night's Dream. There were 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, sometimes 10 weeks. Beautiful time. But then you rehearse because you have to present the integrity of the whole event to an audience, whereas in film, you are obliged to present the integrity of the moment, and therefore, in theatre, it might be excusable, but not good, to be a little bit ahead or to be a little bit out of sync with your performance, to think, I wonder what's for supper tonight, and then go back on, or I wonder which member of the cast I will have a drink with afterwards, or which member of the audience, indeed. Those little shifts, once you relax into a theatre run, maybe may invade you. You try that between action and cut. You've had it. No chance, no survival. What you have to be, and I think I learned to really enjoy the joy of theatre and the joy of Shakespeare. I suddenly realized that on stage, during a performance, I realized that I was present. And that the text, the rhythmic text and the poetic language of the drama was holding me in the present. It was actually like an embrace that held me onto the stage in its rhythm and its pattern. Iambic pentameters are famous and they're beautiful, and that rhythm holds you into the character, onto the stage, and it transmits to the audience in an extraordinary way. To be or not to be, that is the question. Let me have men around me that our fat young Cassio has a lean and hungry look. Now is the winter of our discontent. They're all beautiful iambic pentameters. And I've learnt and sometimes make little discrete alterations in my film script to find a rhythm that will echo in the audience in a more resilient way than it is on the page. But mostly, for Sexy Beast, I didn't change a word. I know that my Shakespeare training helped me not to change a word, not to interfere with it. I know that there are a block of 8 no's followed by a block of 13 no's when Don Logan explodes and says no, 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 no. And I realized that the writers, they were so good, had put them down for a purpose. And sometimes we may now, in film scripts and television scripts, find writing that is not put down for a purpose, but put down for an effect. And it's very, very different. Hamlet, in his speech to the players, says something is far from the purpose of playing, which was and is to hold, as 'twere, the mirror up to nature, to show virtue her own feature, scorn her own image, and the very age and pressure of the time. And so to to have that speech, Hamlet's speech to the players, halfway through the play is extraordinary. Because there your leading actor is telling the actors around him and the audience what it is to be an actor and what your priorities should be. You really have to find, again, I go back to, you have to find writing that's worthy of your efforts. If it isn't, you must, I know it's easy for me to say, because we all have to work. We have to have our daily bread. But let us work towards that wonderful day when you open a script and say, at last, I can really give myself to this, and therefore in giving myself to this, will give it to the audience. That wonderful, sublime state of transmission. Theatre acting for me was a profoundly public experience. Now, that may sound really gormless to say that, but it's true that one is aware that it is a public experience and a shared experience. Now, for me, and I'm speaking very personally, the space on a film set between action and cut is the most sublimely private moments I've ever experienced. Just me and the camera. Quite extraordinary. But I know that eventually that me and the camera will be translated and shared, but not in the making. In the making, I'm putting together the minutiae in a very, very private way. When I watched the reel that Chris put together, time after time after time, I said to myself, I don't know how I did that. Because I think I was in a non-public state. When you're in a public state, when I was on stage, I can tell you how I did Othello, I can tell you how I did Hamlet, I can tell you how I did Brutus, I can tell you how I did Frank Ford, I can tell you how I did Ariel in The Tempest, I can tell you because it was witnessed. And I did it, demonstrably did it, consciously for the audience. But those private moments between action and cut where it is just between me and my soul, and then it's gifted to the tribe, something else, and I hope I'm not bordering on the mystical, something else does take over, and I think it's something primal in us all, which is that we are by nature, as animals, as creatures, expressive. And something will come out. Chekhov said, there's a great story in every one of us. And to a certain extent, I think all creative art is autobiographical. It's possible that all acting is autobiographical, but that doesn't mean it's all about me. It means it is about what I've experienced. I think an actor is only as good as what he or she knows. And aside from that, only as good as the company he or she can keep. So I hope that either I've successfully avoided answering your question or I've answered it.
Next question is from Andre.
Hi, my name is Andre Matthews, and I'm from Los Angeles, California. And can I just say, it is such an honor to have this opportunity to be here in the same building with you tonight and ask this question. My question is, what difficulties have you faced in your career, and how have you overcame or dealt with them?
I'm going to be very, very straight with you. I was once on a film set, and something rather similar was asked to me. When you were a struggling actor, and I had to interrupt him. I said, I've never struggled. I didn't go to drama school. I left school with A-level results in physics, chemistry, and biology. My father, he was a GP, a family doctor in Pendlebury, which is close to Salford, which is not too far from Blackpool. And a patient of his ran a wonderful amateur dramatic society in Salford, Lancashire, called the Salford Players. And my father said, do you think my son could join? Because he's at a loss, and I think he could be an actor. My father used to call me the Danny Kaye of the family. And so I joined this amateur company. They were very, very good. A lot of them worked for a local TV station called Granada Television. A lot of them were semi-professional actors, but the standards were very, very high. And I started, I think, painting the stage scenery, and I ended up starring in their leading plays within the space of 6 months. And one of the amateur actors, a lovely lady called Irene, she said, "You have got to go professional. You must please give it a try." And there was a publication then in the UK called The Stage and Television Today. And it was filled with adverts and vacancies and little news bulletins and reviews. And she'd circled an ad saying, young actors wanted for a company that tours schools, Theatre in Education, it was called, TIE. And she said, you've got to audition for them. You've got to. I don't know how she did this. She was a wonderful woman, generously researched where I could be placed. So I got on a train. I phoned them, and they said, come and audition. So I got on a train from Manchester, my heart pounding, and I auditioned for them. And Brian Way was his name. I auditioned for Brian, and I heard the magic words, "When can you start?" Wow. I was an amateur. I was a chemist. I was a physicist. I was a biologist. I was an imposter. And they said, "When can you start?" So here's the miracle. They played to schools, yeah. And they had, for 5-year-olds, they had a fairy story. And we played in the gymnasium, so all the children would surround us enacting this beautiful fairy story called The Dog and the Stone. And we encouraged audience participation. So all the little 5-year-olds were little puppies or trees or fairy. It was delightful to work with the children. Untrained actor, now working with children in the middle of a gymnasium. And if you fake it, children will find you out very, very fast. And if you're boring, they will invent something better to do. And then for the slightly older ones, for the 7-year-olds to 11-year-olds, we played The Magic Herb. It was a wonderful drama about finding a magic herb across the mountains to cure this disease that was ravaging the village. And we enacted this play, and the children, I remember, this was a very, very long time ago, I remember one little girl was pretending to be ill with the illness. 2 little boys carried her throughout the play, all around the gymnasium, carried her in their arm until we got to where the magic herbs were planted. The audience participation amongst children was so beautiful. Talk about responsibility to your audience. It was very, very touching. And I think that experience, those little boys carrying that little girl around the auditorium until we found the magic herb, was such a sublime suspension of disbelief and trust in us actors that they really wanted to join in. Nothing in drama school, with respect, I don't think could have been of that unique nature to me. Then for the 11-year-olds to the 17-year-olds, guess what? Excerpts from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare's Macbeth, and I found myself in my first job playing scenes, playing Mercutio, playing Father Capulet, playing the porter in Macbeth, playing Mercutio, also in Romeo and Juliet. Extraordinary experience. Playing Shakespeare, completely untrained. Playing Shakespeare. Oh, and of course Julius Caesar. I had Brutus's speech. To the people of Rome, they were 15-year-old school children in East London. They were tough. And if it was certainly, but they were completely enthralled, and they were that welded in me a relationship between myself and the audience, a storyteller, that had never left me. Imagine that as my first job, extraordinary. And I remember very clearly one of the directors, a beautiful woman. She was very pregnant, beautiful blonde woman, and she was directing the Shakespeares. And she took me aside and she said, rather like Irene, who said, "You've got to audition." It was another visitor who said something as profound. She took me to one side and rather quietly and fiercely said, "You are going to be a great classical actor." I was 19. At first, I was overwhelmingly flattered. And in the years that followed, I translated her words. What she was saying was, "You are going to have to work so hard to get to where you might be." But she saw in me the seeds of something, but what she was saying was, "You've got to work so hard to get this realized. You're not entitled. It won't be given to you. But my goodness, you've got something there if you really grasp at it and earn it." Okay, I went from them, that job, to the same Brown Way was very friendly with Peter Cheeseman, who ran a theatre in Stoke-on-Trent. Theatre in the round as well, surrounded by the audience, just like the children. And I was with Peter playing wonderful roles. My second job in a repertory company, playing extraordinary leading roles for them. And then from then I went to London. From then I started to do little bits of television work. I even did 2 episodes of Coronation Street. And then from there I auditioned for Chichester, got the job. From there I auditioned for the Royal Shakespeare Company, and I got the job. Now, just before I joined the theatre company when I was 19, I went to Stratford-upon-Avon and I watched a performance of Richard III, during which I fainted with excitement. I passed out with excitement, and I was revived and saw the rest of the play. And when my parents came to meet me any of you know the theatre at Stratford-upon-Avon? It's magnificent. In the forecourt, on the great stone steps leading to this magnificent theatre, I remember my parents, I'm sure they were utterly bewildered by what I was saying, but I said to them, rather theatrically, I must admit, "This is where I want to be and this is who I am." 2 years later, I was on that stage. So, and I was with that great company, right on and off. Then I was with the National Theatre and the Royal Court, interspersed with beautiful television work as well, but mostly theatre. And then in 1979, 1980, this is I hope you realize this is an unbroken thread. Attenborough saw me, and I was cast as Gandhi, my first major role in any film. And I was nominated, and I won, thank God. So I think to answer your question, no, I haven't struggled, but my struggle has been to perfect my craft and make myself worthy of the amazing good fortune that the universe has blessed me with, and how it has placed me as a tribal storyteller, and therefore to live up to that responsibility is my joyful struggle.
Our final question is from Cheche.
Good day, Sir Ben. My name is Okalilia Cheche. I am from Johannesburg, South Africa. And I think you're a fantastic storyteller because it seems like you keep predicting the questions that are about to be asked and answering them before. So the question I have for you is, on paper is, if you had to go back in time and speak to yourself at the age of 20, what would you tell yourself? And secondly, as I am a football fan and you live in Manchester, I would like to ask the very important question, blue or red? Thank you.
Well, I see you're wearing both. Now, is that to confuse or to be equivocal or? Okay, which is red? Yes, well, that's for me. And I also. So I did some wonderful work with Athol Fugard. Does that name mean anything to you? My first play with Athol was a play called Hello and Goodbye, which I played with Janet Sussman, who's Helen Sussman's niece. And Athol came over to see the play. He loved it. And I loved working with Janet, she was a wonderful sister it's a two-hander, a beautiful play. And then Athol cast me in Statements After an Arrest under the Immorality Act with Yvonne Bryceland, and then later in Dimitar. So I worked very, very closely with Athol. And Athol later was of course General Smuts in Gandhi, so we joined each other as actors later on after those wonderful years. But I learned so much from Athol in the responsibility of offering something pure to the audience, because he's a very pure writer, informed by anger, indignation, loss, and love and joy and triumph. Very rich personality. So if I were to go back and talk to my 20-year-old, whom you've all shared already, well, 19, 20, I was the same guy. I'm still the same. There's not a lot's changed. Well, a lot has happened, but I'm still the same. I would say to my 20-year-old, don't panic. That's all. Don't panic.
I actually do have one more quick question for you.
Of course.
Many of the young students that you see today, we all have a different story for why we want to get into the entertainment industry or why we want to be an actor.
Yeah.
And this usually happens when we're 11, 12, 13. This is when we generate what we want to do for the rest of our life. Mm-hmm. So many young people believe that when they're going to get into a career, if I want to be a doctor, I have to be the best doctor in the world. I can't just be a doctor. I've got to be rich, and I've got to be this, and I've got to be that. And unfortunately, a lot of the same young people think the same way about the entertainment industry. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to be an actor, I have to be rich and famous. That's the only version of success. Mm-hmm. So as an actor, would you agree that the best version of success for an actor would be being able to go home, look in the mirror, and say, you paid all your bills this month? doing something that you loved. Would you think that that would be the correct version of success?
I would say that it's one version of success. To be able to put bread on your table by doing something that you love. But I would put above that, with respect, I was heard today. To be seen and heard is what we all actually crave for. And we mustn't let that be stifled or diluted. And we mustn't resort to anything that is too artificial and too divorced from our tribe, because we are all we have, really.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Well, so we actually have something for you. I specifically didn't say anything to you ahead of time. We would like to offer something to you, and right now I'm going to bring Tony Zimbardi up on stage, who has something to present to you.
Well, those of us at AMDA, on behalf of Jan and David Martin, our founding presidents, our board of directors, Dr. Michael Angardi, our provost, all of us at AMDA would like to present you with an honorary master's degree
Oh, how wonderful.
in performing studies.
Thank you. Thank you. I know where this is going. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for coming here tonight. As we all know, life is a journey. Acting is a journey. And thank you guys so much for spending a little bit of your journey with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Sir Ben Kingsley.
I was heard. Thank you.